Hello to all. Welcome to the channel Cloud Knowledge. Today we are going to study about mirroring of Azure SQL database to Microsoft Fabric. In Microsoft Fabric platform, we have one lake. There we are going to mirror exactly the Azure SQL database which we have in Azure portal. Okay. Inside Fabric, we can unlock powerful business intelligence, artificial intelligence, data engineering and science, and other data scenarios. Now, next is why we are doing it, right? It will enable analytics ready data for us in one single platform. The second point is no complex ETL is required, direct replication into Microsoft Fabric's Lakehouse ecosystem. Enables downstream scenarios like data engineering, science, BI, business intelligence, and machine learning. Mirroring simplifies data integration between Azure SQL and Fabric, enabling real-time analytics and unified governance. Next are the key features and the considerations. So the first feature is read-only SQL Analytics endpoint in Fabric for Delta table queries. It supports vCore-based Azure SQL tiers. For DTU, it is not fully supported. These things are just theoretical. While we are going to demo, we'll know everything in detail through practical. Compatible with virtual networks or on-prem data gateway. Considerations: cross-tenant mirroring is not supported via managed identity. Large or long transactions may delay mirroring synchronization. One leg storage is free. Compute usage for queries is built. So related to the billing, what are the prerequisites? We are going to study in detail. Next is the diagram for it. Here on the left screen, you can see Azure, and on the right side, Fabric. Here we have an existing Azure SQL database, which will be having the near real-time analytics in Fabric. And the replication will be also in near real time from Azure to Fabric, where a mirror database will be created, which will have a SQL analytics endpoint. And the files will be Delta Parquet in one lake. Each mirrored Azure SQL database creates mirror database, a SQL endpoint. The capabilities will be to explore and query Delta Lake tables in real time, build no-code queries, SQL views, and stored procedures, query across warehouses and lakehouses within the same workspace. This is the main motto of Fabric platform, that in the same place you can access your warehouse, lakehouse, everything in one workspace. Connect via SSMS, Visual Studio Code, and GitHub Copilot. Now we'll go for the demonstration. So here on our Azure portal, we have a SQL database called CK-SQL DB Mirroring, which has a table called employee inside the query editor section for this particular database, which is inside a server, SQL server called as CK-SQL DB Mirror Server. The table has two rows and two columns, employee ID, employee name. This is what we are going to mirror to our Fabric. Now, the documentation is present here at the Learn page of Microsoft. So here is the documentation or a tutorial for the mirroring. Configure Microsoft Fabric mirror database from Azure SQL database. Has few prerequisites that you should have an existing database, which I've just shown you. Then it has to be either a single or elastic pool. If you don't have one, just create. The tier and the purchasing model requirements are given. So we have a vCore one, which will work. Next is the existing capacity for Fabric. You should have your Fabric account with the same tenant. Then it has to be active and running. Paused or deleted capacity will affect mirroring. It will not work. Then you have the other settings as well related to the Fabric tenant. Those should also meet. You need to have a member or admin role in the workspace. This is also important. Then the network related requirements, if you're going to configure virtual network, etc. So this is the standard page where you should visit the prerequisites first. Okay, and then we'll proceed with the next steps. So the first step is to enable system assigned managed identity of your Azure SQL logical server. That is SAMI, system assigned managed identity. How we are going to do it? It's written in the steps here. Is to enable the publishing of data to Fabric OneLake. To configure or verify that the SAMI is enabled, go to your logical SQL server in the job portal under security. In the resource menu, select identity. So now we'll be going to the Azure portal and to the server CK SQL Mirror server. The server is open in another browser tab. We'll go to the security and to the identity section. This is what it is written here. Under system assign managed identity, select status to on. If it is not on, you have to turn it on. The status by default, if you're creating a new SQL server, will be off. So you have to check on this on button and then click on the save button at the top. So for this server, it is already on because it's an old server in use. So it is on, turn it on. Then the SAMI must be the primary identity. Verify the SAMI or the system assigned manager identity with the following TSQL query. Let's copy this query and we'll go to the SSMS. We have SSMS also open and connected to the same server, CK SQL Mirror server. And we have two databases. We are going to mirror CK SQL DB mirroring database with this employee table. Let's copy the command, which is from this DM server managed identities, and we'll execute it. Upon execution, we can see that yeah, is primary flag is 1. That means it is yes. Now database principle for Fabric. Next, you need to create a way for the Fabric service to connect to your Azure SQL database. It works for SQL authentication, that is basic, then organization account, Entra ID, service principal name, SPN are the supported auth methods to connect. Now for this demo, we are going to use Entra ID, organization account. Now we can accomplish this with a login and mapped database user. So we have to create a login and then a user. The steps are given here. Connect to Azure SQL Logical Server using SSMS or in Visual Studio Code. You can install the MS SQL extension and connect. In this demonstration, we have it in the SSMS. We are already connected to our server. Now connect to the master database, create a server login and assign the appropriate permissions. The permissions required for the Fabric login are these. Okay, select alter, view database, performance, security state, all these. So now since we are going to do it through Entra admin login, we'll go with this step, the second one. If you're doing it through basic SQL authentication, you can go with the first command by directly giving your Fabric login and strong password. We are going with Entra, so we'll copy this command and we'll go to the SQL server. We'll paste this command and we'll select from here the master database because it's mentioned here that we have to connect to the master. Okay, at the top it's mentioned connect to the master. So we'll copy. So we have already copied, sorry. We have copied and pasted. We'll give here our ID. You can give your Entra ID if you're doing it to SPN or SQL authentication. You can give that using the command. So here we have created a login. We'll execute this command. It has given an error that user must be in master database. We have not selected here the master. So let's select master. Now master shows. We'll execute the query once more. It says the service principal already exists. For me, this login was already created, so it will give that the login already exists. But for you, if you're creating it for the first time, it will be executed in the master database. Now, the second step is this command for Microsoft Entra Auth login. First one is for SQL. We copy and we're going to paste it here. We'll give the ID We'll create the username. If this is also created, if this user already exists in my master database, it will also give us the same message. Let's try. Again, this user already exists. So as expected, this user also was created earlier for this master database. So as expected, this was also created by me before. So we need not worry. But for you, if you're creating for the first time, it will execute successfully. So let me go back and now we'll go with the next step. Next step is to open the Fabric portal, existing workspace, create a new workspace. If you don't have one, now we have to go to the create pane, and on that we have to click on the create icon. There we have to go to open data warehouse section and then mirror Azure SQL database option. So let me take you to the Fabric portal, which is here, and I have a CK Fabric workspace already present here. So we'll click on this new item. New item. If we go down, we have the options of mirror, you see. There are several options. Mirror, Databricks Catalog, SQL DB, Managed Instance, Cosmos DB. These are in preview. Okay. So we can use the options for the demonstration, which is Microsoft Azure SQL Database. It will open up a new page. In the meantime, we'll go back to the tutorial. It says connect to your database. Okay. So in the connection, what we'll do is we'll have to give the server details, then the name of the database and create the connection. Okay. Depending on the authentication. So we'll give all these details, but for these details, we need to go to the SQL server, Azure SQL server. This is our server. We'll go to the overview section of the server and take the server name. Copy the server name. Let's now go back to the Fabric. Now let's go back to the Fabric. Here we can see the page has opened and we have to select Azure SQL database. Now in the connection settings, we have to get the server. It has to be server name.database.windows.net. Then the database name. The database name in our case is CK SQL DB mirroring. So we'll copy and paste. Now it will say create a new connection, right? Connection and connection name it will give by default on its own. Data gateway, none. Authentication, in our case, is organizational account selected. Then your organizational account will display. If it's basic, connect to your SQL authentication. And then we'll go to click connect at the bottom right side. Click. It will take some time to connect to the data source. Let's wait. Obviously, slowly the page opened. It says new mirrored Azure SQL database, data replication only valid for the columns, only valid columns. Here there is a note that only valid columns are replicated to Fabric One Lake. You can set your security controls and policies from the SQL Analytics endpoint. You see here, it will give us the option. If there would have been more number of tables, you can select the ones which you have to mirror. In our case, we have just one, which is dbo.employee emp. So we'll let this be selected. There's again at the bottom, we can see again a check mark for automatically mirror future tables. Any new tables added to the source will be replicated to the destination. So if we go to the Azure SQL database back and create a new table, that means that will also be automatically mirrored to the Fabric Lake. Now we'll click on connect and click on create mirrored database. When we click on it, it will start the mirroring. Let's wait. It is processing, we can see. Creating your mirror database, please stay on this page and do not refresh. If you navigate away, you might restart the entire mirroring process. So first step, provisioning mirror database happened. Provisioning SQL Analytics endpoint completed. Configuring replication also completed, and starting replication is now in progress. That also completed, and now this is the screen where we can see in the Explorer side CK SQL DB data replicated to our fabric. Now with just small configuration and changes, we can just get the replicated version of the Azure SQL database in Fabric, right? Now here we see that the status is running, right? We can click on refresh to see when the table will have its rows replicated. Okay, when we clicked on refresh, we see the name of the table and the status of replication is running. Rows replicated are 0 currently. And let's click on query in T-SQL. It will open up here. Now, since the replication is happening, we are not able to see the table employee. But when it's completed, we'll be soon seeing here the number of rows. So let's wait for some time. Few minutes. Let's again click on refresh and we see the rows replicated comes here as 2. And here also, if we click on refresh, it will show us debut in the Explorer section, and inside debut we have employee. Employee has 2 columns, right? We see here, and auto-generated column here also appear from the Fabric side. Now, here at the top we can see one more button as refresh. Whole page will refresh for you. You see the name of the table, status, rows replicated, last completed, and other filters also exist. If something is failing, that will give you here. Now, we'll see the query in T-SQL to query the data. Using T-SQL, we can query and analyze the mirror data, which we have replicated from Azure, and then create a semantic model for Power BI reports using mirror data. We can create a semantic model out of this mirror data. In this video, we'll just query the data so that we see we have the 2 rows here, new query, or you can just go to the database into the employee table. If you click here, new SQL query, select the rows, it will execute the query for us and give here the 2 columns as well as the column which is created by Fabric system column, okay, which is uniquely identifying the rows here. Employee ID, employee name, and both have been mirrored copied from Azure SQL database. The steps we followed were very simple, which are present here on the standard documentation. And we have to first meet the prerequisite. We have to enable SAMI for the server and then follow the simple steps of creating a login, user, and then we have to just go to the Fabric platform, select mirror Azure SQL database, give the server details, and go with the mirroring. I hope you have got the idea of mirroring of Azure SQL database from Azure portal to Fabric. Let me know if you have any queries. This is a new feature and Microsoft is enabling it for different data sources you see here. And the same we could see when we were creating the new item in Fabric, right? Different data sources, Cosmos, Databricks, etc. Thank you for watching the video. Happy learning. Bye.